you're in Nazi-occupied territory, and you're friends with some Jewish people, and you've hidden them in a crevice in your basement. There's no way anybody's going to find them. You are a genius at hiding. But somehow, the Nazis got a tip-off. They come knocking on your door. You open the door, this big snarly German dude is... Time, huh? Yeah. Okay, this big snarly German dude is in your face saying, "Where are you hiding the Jews?" And you go, "Oh, I can't lie. They're in a crevice in my basement." No, bad. Don't do that. You're allowed to just, if you say nothing, they're gonna know that you have them. If you say, "I am not hiding any Jews, I'm sorry," and they might search your house anyway, but they won't find them. That's not a lie. They intended to kill those people. You don't have to tell them anything. So that wasn't a lie, because their lives are more important than you telling this German dude what he wants to hear. So that is the big part of this command, but I have to hand it on.
Okay, I'll read the ninth commandment to you. Okay, so I got the ninth commandment and was totally lost how to explain it, so I referred to the catechism, which I've never done before, and I was really surprised. It was like, they explained it really well. So, let's see how this goes. The ninth commandment that is in the catechism says, "You shall not covet your neighbor's house, your neighbor's wife, or his manservant, or his maidservant, or his ox, or anything that is your neighbor's. And everyone who looks at a woman lustfully has already committed adultery with her in his heart." So that's the ninth commandment. Short, like, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife. So, I didn't know much about this. I figured that meant, like, when I'm older and married, my husband should, look at the other wives running by. That's all I did. So, from the catechism, I learned a lot. Kind of the thing you mentioned earlier was that everyone looks at women lustfully or committed adultery. So that puts a higher standard for guys to be careful and watch what they do. Because it's like this human desire sometimes that we have are faulty in comparison to what God desires for us. So what do we do about this? These faulty desires that humans have. God calls us to purify our hearts. That's what the catechism states is what we can do in order to kind of combat the sin of this commandment. How do you purify our hearts? We attune our intellect and will to the demands of God's will. So, I don't know. Does anyone have any ideas how we can do that? Attune our intellect, will to the demands of God. Prayer. Anyone else?
Veritas.
Veritas. Well, that's what he calls, but yeah, prayer was one of them. He also said, for this specific commandment, practicing chastity, your purity of intentions and visions, which I found really interesting because even when you go and talk to someone, are you talking to them because you want something from them? Or are you talking to them just because you want to get to know them, love them as, a child of God? What are your intentions? Are your intentions pure in what you do? And then another thing we mentioned for purifying our hearts is also with modesty, which I know we've talked about before, and just modesty with our patience and decency and discretion, which protects the intimate center of ourselves. So all those things are called to these human desires to sometimes combat us with desire to come closer to God versus the world is close. And Andrew and I have a
We're going to demonstrate the ninth commandment, but Taylor would have had a hard time demonstrating how to covet somebody on her own. So what's going to happen is we're going to do two little acts that are very brief, and on the board is going to be what's going on in the head, in the intentions of the person. And then I'll ask you a few questions afterwards. Hey Taylor, it's good to see you. How have you been?
Good, how are you?
Good, I'm doing really well. You have a good day there? Oh, yeah, I have. Hey, you want to play some soccer? Not very good soccer.
So you enjoying your day?
Yeah.
Your classes today?
Okay, next one. Hey, Pelagia, how are you doing today?
Very great.
Great. You having a good day?
Wonderful day.
Your classes good?
Great. I mean, I just learned so much.
Very cool. You want to play some soccer? Cool. Okay, so what was actually different about what we did? The interaction on the surface. If you would have just seen Taylor and I talking to each other, would you have thought there was any difference between the two scenes? But what was the difference?
Your intentions.
Which one followed the ninth commandment?
Second.
The second one.
Okay, so the 10th commandment says, do not covet anything that belongs to your neighbor. Stealing, the 7th commandment, which Amy described, really stems from this idea of coveting something that belongs to our neighbor. And envy, jealousy, greed are all symptoms of coveting that this commandment is talking about. This commandment isn't more concerned with the action of stealing, but it's more concerned with the desires of our heart. If we feel that we want something that our neighbor has, if we're jealous over something that they have, this is a desire that our heart wants something else. And we shouldn't place possessions, like Cameron said in the first commandment, we shouldn't place loving things over loving our God. So what this commandment is really telling us is that we don't need possessions. What we really need is God. And a friend told me this, we should own our possessions, and our possessions shouldn't own us. So we shouldn't let our possessions control us and lead us to feel jealous or envy over what someone else has. And an example of this I remember from last week, my friends and I were talking about one of our other friends one of our friends overheard her talking on the phone to her mom about the marching band clothing sale and that she wanted to buy everything and her parents were going to buy all of it for her. And we were all talking about, man, I wish we had parents that would buy everything for us like her. But at the time I realized that we shouldn't have been thinking that way because just because felt the same way my friends did because I had to buy what I wanted from the sale myself and I even bought my mom a sweatshirt. But at the time I realized it was wrong for me to think that way because I love my parents for who they raised me to be. So we shouldn't think, when we're thinking that way, we need to stop ourselves and say we shouldn't desire those things, and we should be thankful for what we have. And we need to think about why we are desiring these possessions. Is it because everyone else has it, or is it because we want to impress our friends? It is not our friends or our society who we should want to impress, because who we should put first is God. So that's the 10th commandment.
Hey guys, even on the Sabbath, if a sheep were to